author Sarah A. Chrisman, and today I'm going to talk to you about Olympia oysters. Now, this is actually footage that Gabriel helped me shoot last year, and it got buried under some other files, so I never wound up editing it until now. Now, the dress I was wearing at the time we shot this footage was on its last legs already. It was a work dress, and it wore out, and so I no longer have that dress. It's in the scrap bag upstairs. So as you watch, this dress will just spontaneously transform into a different dress, which no longer really exists as a dress. It's now a rag that was the top of the dress and a skirt that I managed to salvage. But anyhow, I don't have that dress anymore, so I couldn't shoot the intro and the exit with the same dress I was wearing. So that's why my dress just seems to transform through the magic of video. But anyhow, Olympia oysters. Enjoy. Oysters pop up quite a lot in the tales of Chetzemoka. They were very popular in the Victorian era. They were a food that was eaten by rich and poor alike, which was a little unusual. And there are recipes for oysters in the appendices of several of the tales of Chetzemoka. There's a scene in A Trip and a Tumble where Ken and Felix are bantering with a waitress, and Felix tells her that he really prefers clams. The waitress's response to this is to look shocked and tell him that, maybe he just hasn't found the right oysters yet. These are Olympia oysters, also known as Puget Sound oysters, or in the 19th century, around the Puget Sound region, they were also just called native oysters. They went by all three names, so in recipes from the time, you'll see all three names listed. Their Latin name is Ostrea lurida, and they're actually a different species from most of the oysters that are on the market today. The ones I've got here, these are actually about 4 years old, so you can see how small they are. They're a lot smaller than Atlantic oysters, and really a lot smaller than the Pacific oysters that are most of what you'll find around the Seattle area today. The Japanese Pacific oysters that you'll find around Seattle today, they can get really big. But Olympias are small, and they have a strong coppery flavor that's much prized by oyster connoisseurs. These are actually so small that in the 19th century, recipes would often call for them by the pint. And they were so popular at the time and so readily available that overharvesting led to a severe decline in the species, which is unfortunate. But this was back in the days when you could get them all up and down the West Coast, and more importantly, anywhere with access to the West Coast via train. And they were eaten, every one. Mostly anyways. The situation got worse as far as the Olympias were concerned when those big Japanese Pacific oysters were introduced to Puget Sound in the early 20th century because the bigger oysters started out-competing the little Olympias. And then things really got bad after January 13th, 1907. And what happened on that date was a freak cold snap happened to coincide with an unusually low tide. So what that did was, when the tide went out, it exposed all the oysters, other shellfish, other intertidal life to the open air. Now, they could take low temperatures if they were covered by water, because the water would act as a buffer. But when they were exposed to the open air and then the temperature just dropped like a rock to well below what those life forms had evolved to become accustomed to, the oysters froze to death. And it dealt a really bad blow to especially the Olympias that had been struggling already. It actually took the Olympia oysters off the market for 5 years. And to come back from this, the oyster growers reseeded their beds with those bigger, faster growing Pacific oysters. Throughout the 20th century, the Olympias, they virtually disappeared, and it became really hard to find them. But then in 1998, which is actually the year I graduated high school, the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife decided to bring back our native oyster. And they made a big effort to launch a campaign to reintroduce them. They were helped by NOAA and other interested groups, not least of which were the oyster growers. And now you can get these again from a small family-run shellfish farm on Totten Inlet called Taylor Shellfish. And they will actually ship them all over the country, which brings us back full circle to the 19th century, back when everyone with access to a railroad line had access to all the products of the coasts, including oysters. Oh, magic dress transformation. Anyhow, thank you for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up, and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!